We've all been in this situation. You're in the game, you're killing it. Couple of K up in the mid game. Hell, you're so strong. You could 4v5. You could even 3v5 if the conditions are right. And so the enemy team decides that they are a little bit desperate and they just want to get something out of this game. So they group up, maybe 5 man. They're sending 5 people straight down the mid lane. And you know they're not going to get anything. What's a 0-3 Lucian going to be doing sieging? Yet somehow, some way, this Lucian is hitting that turret and they end up even taking that turret down. And you're stuck there dumbfounded as to how a siege like that worked when not only did you and everybody else know that you were stronger and you could have won that fight, you could have engaged and easily wiped them, and the enemy team also knew that they were so weak that they would have lost that fight. And so why do these situations happen? I see it happen all the time across solo queue, pro play, etc. And the reason being is because in a lot of the times in a lot of games, people feel like using abilities off cooldown on the chance of looking for a pick, as opposed to a more certain use of the spell. We've seen the Threshes that throw out hook off cooldown trying to get a pick, or Lee Sins that keep chucking out their Q to try to get an insect going off cooldown. And then you have Echoes using parallel conversions nonstop, only to stun 3 minions at a time and consistently do so every single wave. And what ends up happening is that a failure to understand that all spells, or almost all spells, have a bigger implication on the playstyle of your opponents when they are not used than when they are. When they're off cooldown, that is when a spell really carries weight. So let's give some examples as to how spells, when they're off cooldown and on cooldown, influence your playstyle. Say you're playing AD carry. You're against Rengar. Rengar ultimate is up. Everyone knows Rengar has ultimate. You are hugging turret. You are butt buddies with your support that has exhaust. You are never going out alone. You are being as safe as possible. If you're low, you are staying near the turret. You are just being as safe as you have ever played. Rengar ultimate just got to use somewhere else. It's a field day for you. You are doing anything you want, out and about, staying till 10% HP. You don't care who you're with. You're going on a solo mission, split pushing. Nobody gives a shit. Rengar ultimate is down. You can do whatever you want. See how your playstyle changed drastically when Rengar ultimate was up and when it wasn't. Let's tone it down so we can see how this scale really progresses and changes your play. You're sieging, and Syndra, you just use her stun to push back the minion wave. Well, now you feel comfortable pushing up to that turret and autoing a little bit more because the threat of getting CC'd and then comboed is no longer there. She just used her spells, and so you have a bit of a window of about 10 seconds or so, or whatever time it is for you to push back that into that turret safely. Then you have Thresh. He just chucked out his death sentence. He missed. You know it's off cooldown for 20 to 10 seconds or maybe a little less. That's a window of opportunity. And so you can scale that down to pretty much any spell. And what ends up happening is that a spell, when it is used, creates a window of opportunity until the time that it's back up that the enemy can use to push back, to feel like they can aggress as they know that there is a spell in the arsenal of the opponent that is missing. And if you were to boil it down to 5-on-5 and each team has 20 spells available, if one team uses parallel convergence and death sentence and scatter the weak right from the get-go and nothing happens, that means that if the enemy team of 5 is to approach the other team that has used all their spells, they have an advantage of 3 big CC spells over them. And while it's not a very accurate way of portraying this, it gets the point across of understanding how basic the idea of having a spell off cooldown is, as the threat is no longer there. And when you use these spells without any success rate, it just creates windows of opportunity for the enemy team. Whereas what you want to do is you want to hold on to them and you want to keep the implication of the spell as long as possible, because what happens is that implication alters the playstyle of your opponent more, and by altering it more, you make them play a little bit more safe, a little bit more scared. If they don't, then you are in a better position to hit a spell that is more likely to hit as you're waiting for them to overstep their boundaries. And if they do play safe, which is what we want in the scenario where both teams respect each other and the champions that each one has, then that's even better, because what you're achieving is that the enemy team is playing safe. And by playing safe, they're taking less risk. Less risk equals less of a reward, or less of a higher reward, which means that it's going to take them a hell of a lot more to claw back into this game. And using this technique, by just holding onto your spells until you know or are much more certain that it is going to be useful and hit, then you are creating zone, you're creating pressure without even doing anything. So next time you use your spells, think about how that will change the playstyle of your opponent had you just held it.